Going on YouTube, Cloverbuzz here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be going over the Toronto regionals that just wrapped up a few hours ago. So this was the big culminating last regional for Regulation H. It's been a fun format, guys. You know, fun 4 months overall, and it all came down in full swing this weekend, and it saw what we, we're not surprised at this point. It saw Mr. Wolfe Glick take first place, and that is now 10 regionals for Mr. Glick. My goodness. Okay, it's basically his world, and we're all just living in it. So congratulations to Mr. Glick on taking yet another milestone. What ends up being, endless, the amounts of achievements that he's done. What do you have left to prove, Mr. Wolfe? Okay, I don't know anymore. He said in his interview he's just looking to get better at this point. How much better can you get after 10 regionals? Maybe you get another 10. I don't know. But yeah, so what we're going to do is, of course, as always, we're going to go over the results. We're going to go over the teams and just see how Regulation H ended and see, some interesting Pokemon that were used. We'll go over the usage rates. And then we'll talk a little bit about Regulation G, right? Because now, I know we still have like about half the month to go, but in reality, there's only just like maybe a couple locals here and there. Maybe you have a couple points that you can grab. But for the most part, this month is, half Regulation H, and then the other half is like, okay, now we got to get ready for Regulation G. Some people have already been getting ready for Regulation G, right? But all of that in another timestamp in the video, obviously. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go over those results, usage rates first, as always, and then we'll spotlight some players and some teams. So let's get on to it. All right, so let's take a look at the usage rates from day one here, and Incineroar at number 1. So now it's not a surprise anymore. Incin has surpassed Sneasler the last 2 regionals, I would say, in day 1 usage, and no different here. So 46% usage, getting ready for Regulation G, honestly. Okay, and then after that, Goldengo and Dragonite soon follow. Honestly, no surprises here in the top 12, except maybe the Annihilate. I picked Electabuzz to be almost around that slot, but other than that, the other 11, no surprises there. You got Dragonite there, 33% usage now at top 4 there. The Blood Moon at 27. The Bear a little bit lower than I thought it would be at 15%. I thought maybe it could climb up to maybe about 19-20% there, but nonetheless 15%. Okay, yeah. And then Pelipper, Amoonguss, Rillaboom rounding out the bottom half of that top 12. So again, what you see here is as expected. There's no like real surprises here. You know what you're getting with Dragonite, Archaludon, and Goldengo. Your little Doug combination. Your Pelipper, Archaludon teams are going to be very strong. And now your both Ursaluna teams, whether they be hyper offensive or the balanced Trick Room stuff, still very, very good. Amoonguss and Rillaboom, those are your dominant grass types, obviously. And they're pretty much any format, right? And then Pelipper here, your dominant weather control setter here, right? Then if you look in day 2, look at that Incineroar percent, 62% Incineroar usage. I thought it could get 50. I didn't think it would get 62%. My goodness, that is insane. I don't even think Sneasler came even close to that when it was topping first place usage starts, right? I know it was getting like, high 40s, but nowhere near 62%. That is insane. Goldengo 51% too. All right, Dragonite climbing all the way up to number 3 at 45. Okay, the Annihilate cracking the top 6 at 27%. The Ape is really good towards the later part of this format because, again, there's a lot of different sets you can use, whether it be the Safety Goggles set, the Focus Sash set, the coaching setup with Dragonite / others. Because, again, you can fake out the Sneasler, but you can't fake out the Ape because you are a Ghost type. And the Ape has Defiant, which is great because if Incineroar's at 62% usage, Defiant Pokemon look pretty good. And that's probably one reason why Annihilate rose so much. So if you want to intimidate this Dragonite, you're just going to make this Ape really, really strong. And then you can just coach the Dragonite and be okay from there. And then you also have like Final Gambit sets and then Close Combat sets. Yeah, Annihilate was a really good Pokemon. And I built around that thing, for the Global Challenge. I built 2 teams, remember? So nice to see it crack the final 6 in the last Regulation H region over here. And then after that, okay, there we go. So the regular Ursaluna just edging out the Blood Moon here at 22%. That's what I thought it might be. At least cracking, 20 percentile from day 1, but it didn't. Rillaboom, Archaludon, Pelipper, Basculation rounding it out here. Yeah, as expected. And then you have Amoonguss here almost at 30% in terms of day 2 usage. Sneasler dropping down to 4th. Okay, no longer within the top 3, but again, still very, very strong just overall. Again, Dire Claw is kind of funny sometimes. Again, with the sleep status, obviously. But yeah, honestly, after this, no surprises. There's no like interesting newcomers here. Again, I picked Electabuzz in the Annihilate slot here. But other than that, you know, you look at Electabuzz in terms of placement, it was 13th, right? So just one slot away. So yeah, so after this, now let's see how the teams played out and see what finished very, very strong in Regulation H. So let's go ahead, let's go into Lab Mouse and let's preview some of those teams. All right, we're on the Lab Mouse website here where we can analyze some of the results as always. But again, just a quick shout out before we even continue. How about shout outs to Lab Mouse in general, who are competing in Toronto this weekend. So they still found time to upload the results even at the venue. So shout outs to their dedication for their hard work on this thing. And so this way we can make videos like this possible. So congrats and thank you again. And before we even continue further, I want to set the premise for this, because you know, in the finals we got to see Wolfe Glick versus Marco Silva, but there was some backstory to it, right? And if you don't know the backstory, it just stems back to this tweet from Mr. Will Tank over here and went a little bit viral. That's because Marco actually ran into Mr. Wolfe Glick in the global challenge, all right? And hence the phrase Wolfe Con Perish went viral after that. So let's replay the clip that Will Tank recorded when Marco ran into Wolfe Glick, and then you'll understand the backstory behind this. So let's play it right here.
Scurare meglio. Ah sì, ok, trovato subito l'avversario, attenzione. Wolfe!
Wolfe! Oh man.
Wolfe Con Perish.
Oh man, Wolfe Con Perish, man. That doesn't get old, man. And that was the theme throughout day 2 and of course into Top Cut there. So now we go back here into Lab Mouse. So if we take a look at Marco's run over here, he actually ran into Wolfe back in round 8. Okay, and then he also ran into him again in the finals. So, you know, there was some backstory behind all of this. So they're both very familiar with what each other in terms of what they were running. So he got to experience it a little bit ahead of time before the regionals. So now let's take a look at what Wolfe was using just in terms of his squad, right? So of course it was a Perish Trap team, now that we all know. Let's click it and let's see it. All right, here we go. And you know what's interesting, he brought Kingdra of all Pokemon to this, and which makes sense, right? With Politoed, that's a very classic old school VGC combination. But yeah, the Perish Trap here, of course, coming from the Politoed here, Weather Ball, Encore, okay, locking you, all right, and then the Kingdra just dealing a bunch of damage with the Life Orb. The Archaludon is a Power Herb set, which can also be used in the rain a little bit, and then Instant, Amoonguss, Gothitelle, that's like your support options for your Perish Trap capabilities here. So this is it. I always feel like, you know, Perish Trap in theory is a little bit difficult to pilot, right? You have to position and protect and use your fake outs wisely, okay? But when Mr. Glick uses it, he's just like cracked and insane with it, right? This is ideally maybe his best kind of archetype. That's what the people say. But yeah, here it is. So Perish Trap here, and, you know, Parting Shot, you know, into, you know, just resetting your trap count, and then Gothitelle trapping you. And then, you know, there's no Urshifu, right, to crit through, so you're just relying on your recovery with the Citrus Berry. Amoonguss sleeping you, and then the eject button from the Amoonguss can just help you switch out, and then it just gets recovery when it does get ejected, and then comes right back in. So Wolfe has a lot of good things here for it, just in terms of supporting the Perish Trap idea, okay? And then you still have enough damage here coming out from Kingdra and Archaludon, where you can take out some key threats and make sure that the rest of your team can survive with whatever is left, okay? Then we go into Marco's team here at second place. All right, this is pretty much the same kind of squad that he's been running, you know, maybe the last 2 months or so. We've seen him take an IC out of this, second place at a regional as well. Great results, great run in Regulation H for Marco overall. The P2, obviously, you know, just setting up Trick Room here for the Ursaluna and the Torkoal to be able to click Eruption at times. Then you've got Tailwind ideas with the Jump Pluff in the Sun, along with supporting the Zard here, you know, with just doing a ton of damage with the Specs. And then Incineroar yet again, of course, just being able to provide that support with Fake Out Pressure to set up either the Tailwind or the Trick Room here. And then, you know, just Parting Shot into a sweeper of choice is really good there. Then we go down here into third and fourth place. And again, this is a very entertaining top 4 because, again, you know, it could have been Wolfe Glick going for his 10th regional title. It could have been Marco coming out with another regional win. And then Mr. Chuppa Cross could have defended his Toronto title because this is, he won this last year. And then Giovanni Costa, just getting in his last NA regional because he's moving to Japan, right? So it was a very interesting storyline for the top 4. Okay, let's take a look at Chuppa's team. It looks like it's the same as Marcus Dion's team, where we have the Tyranitar as the weather setter here with Sneasler and DD combinations here, expanding force with the Choice Scarf trick idea. Then you have Blood Moon Ursaluna that thrives with the support Volcarona because you can click Tailwind here. So now you can potentially sweep under the Tailwind idea. And then it's Struggle Bug, reducing special attack damage, redirection support with Rage Powder, and then one key nuke with the Overheat over here, right? And then T-Tar, really good against other Sun teams. Again, just the rock coverage in general. Being a dark type against Sans, Side Spam stuff. Like we said, weather control against Pelipper stuff. And then Low Kick and Terra Blast. Again, just very solid coverage moves altogether. And the Terra Blast, very good against Sneasler, very good against other Annihilates if you can just blast them and they don't Terra either. The Ape here is a Goggles set. We talked about that just now a little bit. It is a Taunt Final Gambit set here with Close Combat. And you still have Rage Fist over here, right? So, overall, like a good support defiant Pokemon here for the Tyranitar and the Sneasler. And the Goggles really helps to get around the Munga shenanigans. So, pretty cool team, honestly. All right, then we go into Geo's team here. It's Dragonite and Garchomp yet again, the final Dragon duo over here. And it is Goldango also, with Choice Specs, Terra Steel here. So you can always just do Tailwind and make it rain, blast things, and let some of these other guys clean up in the back. Interesting enough, look at this. It's Inner Focus D-Knight. We haven't seen Inner Focus in a while. It's always been the multi-scale right now with Scale Shot, but look at this. Extreme Speed, Outrage, Ice Spinner, Stomping Tantrum. This looks like a classic Dragonite set here as opposed to the multi-scale Scale Shot Tailwind ideas that we've been seeing, throughout the last couple months or so. White Herb Sneasler, how about this one? Again, Fake Out, Dire Claw, Close Combat, no coaching needed. Okay, we rather just have to protect here. White Herb really good, by the way, just removing Intimidate buffs, removing the Close Combat debuffs also. So no Sash here because the Sash is on the Whimsicott here, and it's AV Instant here. Again, maybe could have been an Adamant Scent, we never know, but AV Instant is also quite good. You can survive the Blood Moon Earth Power stuff. So I like that. It's a pretty cool team. How about Mr. Benny Vasquez? All right, Mr. Newcomer here. Okay, look at this team. This looks like a very familiar Sneasler Balance team. How about Life Orb Ninetales? Listen, we're choosing violence here. Instead of Never Melt Ice, we're going with Life Orb Ninetales, Blizzard, Freeze Dry, Encore, Protect. Okay, and then the Magmar here, pretty standard set. Same with the Rillaboom and the Gambit here, as well as the Basket Legion. This is you might even run Volcarona on this, but the Magmar just so useful here. Just providing support here with that Follow Me and that Taunt Pressure. And then the Basket Legion, the adaptability, hard-hitting set. With the Terra Fighting, you can blast up all the other King Gambits here. And then Sneasler here, just the Poison Touch idea. Not even like Unburden, just Poison Touch with Dire Claw, Close Combat, and Fake Out here. So a couple Fake Out users and redirection support to be able to set up the Swords Dance on the King Gambit here. And with the black glasses, looks really good. Terra Fire, how about that one? So, just neutralizing your fighting weakness, and also just the fire weakness in general, right? You get to resist that and you don't get burned. So, nice idea there with the Terra Fire. But overall, cool Sneasler Balance team. Then we just looked at, obviously, again, this is the same team and Mr. Chuppa was running. So they may have built together, who knows? Mr. Darsh Patelia, looks like it's the screens version of the Archaludon Rain that we covered in our previous video a little bit. So I knew this would come back a little bit, and here it is in top 8. So we got the screens idea, we got Mousehold here, but look, there's no Annihilate. Actually, I thought it would be the other way around. I thought we would have the Annihilate here, but not the Mousehold. But here we are, Darsh flipping the script a little bit and saying, no, we want the Mousehold, but not the Annihilate. We've got Snarl Archaludon, right, with the Terra Bug. So good idea there. And again, that's really useful against Goldengos and Blood Moon Ursalunas. Then you've got Light Screen and Reflect. So still more damage mitigation. You got some speed control with Thunder Wave and Tailwind. Terra Ground Pelipper. So if you're afraid of electric attacks, right, how about just switch on to the ground type and, you just neutralize that altogether. And here's that Scale Shot Tailwind set with the Dragonite over here. So you got 2 Tailwind users. Then you got beat up here with the Maushold, trying to beat up your Archaludon here and just get, you know, defense boost and start hitting, KOing things with body press. Lots of combinations here. And then again, with Follow Me, you can set up your Goldengo here with Make It Rain. Nasty plot ideas. So you've got screens, you've got redirection, you've got the space you need to be able to set up your Goldengo here. And of course, if you just click Tailwind, the Goldengo very much appreciates that, because then you can just go for Make It Rain right away, outspeed threats, and just KO them immediately, right? So pretty cool team from Mr. Darsh. And then Luka Trechgut here, rounding it out here, top 8 set. Look at this. All right, so this is the other Annihilate set with the coaching Sash set. So you can coach the King Gambit here, which has the AV. You can coach the Dragonite here. And to some extent, you could even consider coaching the Incineroar, right? But you also have the Final Gambit idea, so you can just nuke something, right? If it's a little bit unfavorable for your back-end mons, you can just take it out. Otherwise, yeah, the Annihilate can just support these guys with close combats and just coaching and making them, you know, a little bit stronger. And, you know, you have the Amoonguss here. Again, with Incin, your defensive backbone, you're trying to enable and set up the Goldengo here. No Tailwind on the D-Knight, though. Instead, we're just going with the Haze to just try and remove other coaching debuffs or maybe other nasty plots or Dondozo stuff. Of course, that's why we had Haze in the first place. But yeah, overall, like a very solid top 8. And, you know, no surprises. Again, Sneasler, Indeedee stuff. We have some weather teams here. I guess maybe just Wolfe Glick's #1 team was the real surprise here, because everything else is like kind of standard at this point. You know, nothing else was unexpected here. You know, we'll talk about some of the other teams, of course, but Parashap taking it all was not on the bingo sheet, as one would say. Okay, but what we can do now is we can look at some of the other top teams and let's see how they finished off Regulation H, and, you know, just overall some of the archetypes and niche mons that we thought could do well. Let's say, and in fact, if they did do well. So we mentioned this throughout a couple of videos already throughout Regulation H. The Archaludon rain teams will always start with Pelipper, the Archaludon himself, and the Basculegion. And this grass slot is either something like an Amoonguss, or it's either something like a Sinistra. And then after that, the last 2 slots are just up for grabs depending on how you want to run the team. Now, you don't always have to play Archaludon with Pelipper, right? You can always do the Power Herb set, which means you can play it outside of the rain, and you don't necessarily need the rain to be able to use the Electro Shot, which is good, right? So that means they're a little bit more flexible, and then you don't have to have stamina. About 80% of them were, but you can also go with Sturdy/Stalwart, so that all depends on the team itself. But if we go into the lab mouse here, let's take a look at some of those squads here. So first of all, right here at 11th place, outside of the top 8, but Mr. Noah Gardner, again, starts off as we thought with Archaludon, Pelipper, Basculegion, and then there's the Sinistra here. That's because we're going with the Ursaluna route along with Incineroar. So this was a rising archetype, you know, coming into Toronto, of course, just partnering Ursaluna with the Archaludon. And again, this is a Snarl set here, right? A Snarl was a rising tech towards the end of Regulation H, I have to say. But again, you know, you've got healing capabilities with Sinistra here, where you can heal the Ursaluna, which means all this Flame Orb chip damage, you can get all of that back. Same thing with Archaludon here. So all that chip damage that it might be taking to get the stamina boost going, you can just get all of that back by just being able to heal it up with Life Dew and your Hospitality. And then after that, Incineroar just kind of supports the entire team here. Great against Rillabooms and King Gambits that want to be aggressive into the Basculegion, right? Because again, you are a fire type. And oh, actually, there's no Flare Blitz on this, but that makes sense too, right? Just because you are on a rain team, but that's another good chord there. Then Austin Choi, same idea, right? Same thing, but now you have the Dragonite instead of the Basculegion. So again, providing Tailwind support here with Haze and Scale Shot. This one has Flare Blitz. Okay, there we go. Yeah, but again, yeah, Snarl again, right? So Snarl being very prevalent throughout this top cut here, right? Then we go into Talon VGC's team over here, Mr. Cedric. Same thing, but it is the Scarf adaptability set with the Archaludon rain stuff. So that's pretty cool. And again, Snarl. So Snarl, really, really good towards the later parts of Regulation H, as we said already, because again, lots of Goldengo, lots of Blood Moon Ursaluna, and then Incin Amoonguss just gives you that solid defensive backbone altogether. But let me preview some other stuff. Oh, this one from Dylan Salviner, right? This one, Scarlet Skill. So more on this team a little bit later. But how about Espathra here with the Grassy Seed speed boost idea? Lumina Crash you know, letting Archaludon and Blood Moon do extra damage once you're able to just do that. And then speed boost with Protect, you outspeed everything. And then with Grassy Seed, you know, you get a nice solid defense boost with the Rillaboom here, making it a little bit hard to remove. And then Calm Mind, now you're getting special defense boost. So now you've got physical attack damage reduction, and you have Calm Mind, which gives you special attack damage reduction against you. And then you're dealing big damage right back here. Yawn just creates the space needed to support the Espathra, trying to set up the Calm Mind. So you can force them out and switch. You can have double fake out pressure here. And altogether, just a really, really cool team, in all honesty. But again, more on that a little bit later in another video. Stay tuned, okay? How about this one? This one's also a little bit interesting, right? From Mr. Thomas Cooling. Again, Basculegion, Pelipper, Archaludon, right? There's your Rain. But then you add the side spam stuff with Indeedee, Armarouge, and Annihilate here, right? Final Gambit Annihilate with Goggles. Again, another type of set that was pretty cool on the Ape towards the later part of Regulation H. But you got the Trick Room idea here. You've got Tailwind here. So, you know, two modes that you can definitely play here. Makes sense. I don't mind it one bit. Okay. Then you've got the standard range stuff, right? And I even skipped a few of them. But you know, again, Talon was doing it here. But again, from Paul Chua, same thing. The same Rain team that was doing well in August still did well here in the mid to late parts of December. So it's truly amazing how this 6 has been so good for so long. And we might have to just feature one more time on the channel just because it's been that good for that long. Because it's just so solid into a lot of different matchups. Very balanced. You've got special attackers here. You've got physical attackers here. You've got your defensive backbone here. You've got speed control here. You have positional play. Lots of different lines that you can do into different matchups. So overall, very solid team here. Then, as we scroll down here, a couple more other niche mons here. How about the Gliscor Grimmsnarl idea from Lorenzo Arso? He's used this squad before, so he's bringing it back again. But look at the Sinister set with the Assault Vest. Look at this. Matcha Gacha, of course. But then you've got AV with Hex and Scald and Shadow Ball. What a set. This might even be a modest set. I'm not even sure. But this was quite the adjustment here. But it makes sense. Look at what we got here. Okay? You've got Thunder Wave pressure, right? You can Thunder Wave stuff. You can Hex them and just deal like big damage. You've got Gliscor here trying to set up with Swords Dance and just start sweeping with dual wing beats and high horsepower, right? And you kind of need to, right? Because Gliscor's attack is just not that great without the setup. But you can do it with screens. You can do it with Fake Out here. And, you know, the Matcha Gacha, the Hospitality from Sinistra allows you to do that. And you can heal your Archaludon too, right? And this is a power up set with Pelipper too. So very interesting. Usually you don't see that as common. Usually this would be like the Assault Vest stamina set with the Pelipper. But we're going with Stalwart here. That's probably because they're saying there are games where I just don't want to bring Pelipper, but I still want to click Electro Shot, right? And that's the whole idea by doing this. So nice little idea here. Look at that. That's a great Sinister set. I wonder if they'll make this rental active. Maybe we can use a couple more times just before Regulation H ends. But this one's also another one, right? Mr. Spencer Potter. Okay, you've got regular Primeape, okay, with Anger Point. Then you've got Meowscarada here, which is also a little bit uncommon. And then it is Power Up Archaludon. So this is, and it's Aura Sphere Archaludon. Oh, that's spicy, okay. And it's Scale Shot, Iron Head, and Haze D9. This is a team, okay? This is a team. But Anger Point Primeape, that is quite interesting here. I have to say so myself. And then again, the Never Melt Ice on the Ninetales here. So you get Aurora Veil too, along with Blizzard and Freeze Dry Spam. So that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like the fact that we've got Annihilate all the way up here is very interesting. I wonder if they'll make that rental active. I would love to spotlight it as well. We've got another Politoed down here, okay? And it's not a Paraset, but it is Icy Wind and Haze. So those are some of the tools that you can take advantage of, you know, that it's not Pelipper. Snarl again on the Arc. Terra type Psychic, again, resisting the fighting weakness here. Covert Cloak, Sinistra with Terra Fairy, Screens, Grimmsnarl. There's the Ape. Everything else pretty standard. How about the Hisuian Arcanine finding its way onto this team? But again, Rock Blast Hisuian Arcanine, by the way. Rock Blast with loaded dice. Oh my goodness, there's your set. You break Sash, okay? And, you know, I guess they just don't want to miss with Rock Slide, right? So they're going with Rock Blast. And then you still got Flare Blitz and Extreme Speed. That's a cool idea from Noah. And then as we go further, okay, again, like I said, you don't have to play Archaludon with Pelipper. You could still play without it. How about this? Look at this fake. This is one of the Whimsicott teams that we thought could go very far. The fake tiers idea with Archaludon and Goldengo and Blood Moon here, with this Incineroar and D-Knight trying to support here. But fake tiers with Goldengo, fake tiers with Arc, fake tiers with Blood Moon. Lots of damage coming out here. And then you can just lock things, you know, with Encore. Pretty cool. And then Ice Spinner to just remove terrain. So nice ideas there with the Whimsicott. I thought it would go a little bit further. Is that the highest placing Whimsicott? Yeah, it is. All right. Well, you still got King Camel over here, right? But overall, you know, I was very impressed with Archaludon's performance throughout regulationH. It's been very versatile, multiple ways of playing it on a rain team, and lots of different partners depending on how do you want to play it. And you know, we got to see different variations as the format went on, and I still don't even think we're done exploring all of those variations. But that just goes to show you again how I used to say in the beginning of the format that regulationH is a lawless land, because so many things were viable and so many things were playable, and you got to see that as a prime idea, you know, with Archaludon Rain, because just so many things were good with it. P2 Balance arguably was like the second best archetype in regulationH at this point right now in the final format. And it starts with this core with Incin, Amoonguss, P2, and Ursaluna, right? So lots of space creators to try and set up the Trick Room and pose of letting the Ursaluna sweep. You'll usually see Goldengo here as your 5th slot, just trying to sweep in the back end, right? Especially as a special attacker. And then this last slot here has been up for grabs. Lots of different things you've seen here. We've seen Vivian, we've seen Tyranitar, we've seen Pelipper, we've seen Dragonite, we've seen Hydreigon. Lots of options there that you can put there. Flamigo was a very successful idea for a while. But look at this one, okay? How about this? Anthony Lonergan, okay? Coming in clutch with the Mienshao, and here's your regulationG preview. Okay, Mienshao was really good in that format, just because you get Wide Guard. And, you know, you're going to hear us speak about this later, but Wide Guard is a great move in regulationG because there's so much spread moves coming out. But Anthony's saying, you know what, let's get a head start. Let's go ahead and use it in the tail end of regulationH, and let's use this because Anthony's saying, look, there's so much Incineroar now. We can close combat it and just remove it. We're not going to get intimidated because we are inner focus. We're not going to get faked out either because we have inner focus. So let's use that to our advantage. Let's go close combat. Then let's add the dark move tech, and let's put pressure on these Terra Ghost Pokemon and the Goldengos all together, right? So let's do that. Then we have Ice Spinner to blow up terrain. Okay, and then you add Wide Guard over here. So I wouldn't even be surprised if you saw this set in regulationG because there's so much value behind it. You get to blow up Miraidon terrain as a thing, right? So just think about that. So nice idea here from Anthony. I think more people are going to adapt this later on. But like I said, here's your classic 5 of P2 Balance, but some interesting options here. How about Terra Electric, Amoonguss, and substitute Ursaluna? This is something we've seen before, but yeah, AV Incin again, no parting shot. Instead going for U-turn. Again, opting for that AV, you know, just to try and resist a little bit more special attack damages. Again, think about Earth Power from a Blood Moon Ursaluna. So that's pretty cool here. I like that. That's a great tech move there. How about this one here? Again, the Hydreigon here. And again, this is like the rental that we put out, but again, I'm sure they have different EVs and whatnot. But we like Hydreigon with Levitate here because you can Earthquake next to it. And then you've got Snarl Pressure here to neuter a lot of the special attackers. You still already have your physical attack damage reduction. And then Amoonguss here just makes everything work because you can heal yourself, you can spore things in Trick Room, you can redirect and set up the nasty plot here, or even try and set up your Tailwind as well. So lots of cool ideas here, especially with Covert Cloak. You don't have to worry about, you know, Sneasler shenanigans. But yeah, that works. How about this one right here with Dragonite here and Sneasler? So we've dropped the Ursaluna altogether. We're just going with the balanced idea and just having Sneasler support D-Knight here with coaching. You can also coach your Porygon, by the way. So don't even put it past that. Because, again, if you get that attack boost with download, then you're just going to have hard-hitting Terra Blast, Terra Ground. So don't put it past that. And, you know, Scale Shot, E-Speed, Stomping Tantrum, very standard set here with the Dragonite. So that's cool. Then you have this idea, right? We started to see this towards, you know, on the EU side. How about you add the Kilowattrel idea? You know, Mr. Toller Webb had a good idea with this back when he debuted it, or debuted it, right? Competitive boost. You want to intimidate the Ursaluna? you just make me do extra damage, right? Because I have competitive. Another target that you can Earthquake next to. That's usually the idea and the theme behind this 6 slot. And Thunderbolt hurts a lot. Air Slash hurts a lot. Tailwind makes everything fast. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was like 95 speed just because you can outspeed Sneasler under Tailwind. Gholdengo loves Tailwind, like we already know already. You love Fake Out, you love Redirection. So seems like a very good team for Gholdengo, right? So that comes in. But yeah, overall, just nice to see the P2 slots here. How about this one with the Sun idea, right? You got instant P2 Zard. This is the Marco team, ideally, right? So then you've got the other Trickum teams. By the way, look, how many Hydreigon teams are there right here? So there were some tech choices there with Hydreigon, but I saw one with Breaking Swipe, I believe, right? And I want to peek that a little bit, but it's just the Snarl Tailwind sets here. But I guess we'll find it a little bit later. But Hydreigon was also a pretty cool idea on these P2 balance teams, just because, again, the Dark type coverage and the Levitate was really good, especially walling out the Bloodwind Ursaluna, because you can just make it damage go down. But one last day 2 team here. How about just like the hard Trick Room idea with Torkoal, Indeedee, Hatterene, and Ursaluna, but this is the Bloodwind variant, right? So this was cool, and I like this. But again, we'll see P2 a little bit more later on in Regulation G, because Calyrex is back, okay? So what you can easily do is just adapt some of these Regulation H teams and take out like one big sweeper and just add the Calyrex, and now you're just gonna go ham, right? So stay tuned for more of those team preview ideas, but P2 balance is not going away. It's just getting adapted. So coming in, Blood Moon Hyper offense, looked pretty strong here. So I wonder what that would look like in Toronto. So honestly, besides Mr. Alex over here, not a whole lot. Like, look at this, like not much, barely anything. So first, let's actually look at Alex's team here. So he's got the core 4 with the Talonflame, the Indeedee, the Sneasler, and the Life Orb Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? So you already know what you're getting there. Then you have the Electabuzz and the Instant rounding it out here. And our rental was Dragonite in place of the Instant slot, but that's okay. That's because this team is very aggressive, and Electabuzz, again, kind of denies 2 of 3 Sneasler status moves. You can't get paralyzed, and you can't get slept because of Vital Spirit. So you're able to redirect all of that shenanigans away. Then you just click Tailwind and just spam Expanding Force. You spam Blood Moon, spam Hyper Voice, okay? And then let something like Sneasler clean things up in the back, okay? That's pretty standard, right? There's just no like crazy way to play it, but we didn't really see a whole lot of it, right? If I go through Lab Mouse here, not much. Okay, if anything, the Hyper Offense way was played more like this. I'm going to take away these guys, 1 and 2. Okay, instead I'm going to add Whimsicott here, okay? And I'm going to add Gholdengo more or less. And sometimes this is the way they decide to play. You still get Tailwind here when you're Whimsicott, but instead you have these 2 dealing a lot of damage. Sometimes you'll have Fake Tears here, sometimes you won't. And sometimes Whimsicott is not even your Tailwind center. Sometimes it's your Dragonite, okay? And this was a way to play it, right? Where you just have Dragonite, with the Tailwind idea. And now, what was better was the Doug combination with Dragonite, Ursaluna, and Gholdengo, as opposed to the Talonflame, Indeedee stuff with the Blood Moon, right? So we got to see a little bit more of, actually a lot more of that in this regional than the standard hyper offensive way that we've come to see towards this last month and a half or so in Regulation H. So as an example, let's go ahead and let's look at this one here from Luke, right? So this one looks pretty balanced. Fire, Water, Grass Core here. There's the Tailwind D-Knight. There's Gholdengo here. Here's Life Orb, Blood Moon. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So the Blood Moon offense adapted and evolved more later on, where we get this like different, this balanced hyper offense kind of thing, where you just have the Tailwind coming from the D-Knight as opposed to Whimsicott supporting these guys, and then instant Milotic Rillaboom, you get your Fire, Water, Grass Core here. Nice to see Milotic come here, by the way, and get a good result again. Competitive is great, and if it had goggles, it would be really strong against Amoonguss, but Terra Grass can still do that for you, right? So Scald, Ice Beam, Haze, again, very solid idea from Luke Troll, so that's cool. How about this one from Justin Burns? Did they have Tailwind? Yes, they did. So once again, still the same concept. Again, this is like Doug, Sneasler, Amoonguss, and Incineroar. We've seen this rental throughout, but that's one way to do it. Then you go down here. Nick Navarre had another idea But you can add Charizard to this because Whimsicott gets Sunny Day, so you could do something like that. And then you have the Fergraph here that can give you your Trick Room mode to the team, or just be really useful against other Tailwind mirrors where you can just deny them that and just rely on you know, the Blood Moon being the sweeper in the Trick Room as opposed to being a sweeper in the Tailwind, right? Then you can do something like this with Rowan, Mr. Rowan Hall, with what he's doing over here, and just use the Aurora Veil with the Ninetales and then the Icicle Spear into the Ape. So we've seen this before, you know, a couple months ago, especially from the Global Challenge, where you can proc your Rage Fist into the Annihilate and start doing big damage. But other than that, you still have Blood Moon and Goldango doing a ton of damage here. No Tailwind needed on the D-Knight. We're just playing it more defensive. So that's another way to run that. How about this one down? You just say, like, there's a lot of Whimsicott here. But Whimsicott was a pretty good Pokemon. Look at this. Fake Tears Whimsicott with Goldango and Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? This is the other way that you can do it. So it's almost like you can just take out Talonflame here and just add Whimsicott here, but you still want a Fire type. Maybe you don't double up your Fire type, so instead Whimsicott becomes a little bit better of an option. And how about AV Instant? Again, there's so much AV Instant, actually. So it's nice to see that. But overall, you got to see what some of these guys are doing. All right, how about this one? Again, we kind of previewed this already. Fake Tears Whimsicott again. Archaludon, Blood Moon, and Goldango, especially Specs Goldango. But, you know, this is not Life Orb Ursaluna. This is actually the AV set. So, again, at least you got to have some bulk on your things. But, yeah, there it is. And, yeah, just overall, like, nice to see some adaptations with that Blood Moon offense. And no question about it as far as, like, why it was top 12 uses altogether as the format came to an end. So Garchomp was a Pokemon that was pretty high in usage towards the beginning of Regulation H, then kind of dropped off because Scale Shot Dragonite became a thing, but then started to rise back up towards the ending part of Regulation H, just because there were so many things weak to ground, and we kind of needed Garchomp, and then, you know, Rillaboom dropped down in usage, so that also helped Garchomp elevate a little bit because now there's less things weakening the Earthquake. So how did it do in Toronto? Well, basically, you got to have a lot of different teams with it, but the core idea was this Tyranitar team with the Kilowattrel. So let's actually click one of them. How about right here from Battle Room, Colin Ayer. I hope I said his last name right. But this is what we were talking about here, right? So you've got Chomp, Terraflying T-Tar, okay? And then you've got Instant Amoonguss Backbone with Goldango, okay? Pretty standard idea with Sand. And then this is your quote-unquote Tailwind setter. Sometimes this is like a Talonflame here. But instead, we want the Kilowattrel just because competitive makes it so that you don't want to cycle Intimidate onto the Garchomp and the Tyranitar, right? And at the same time, you know, the instant cycling just puts pressure on Goldango too, so maybe we can deter that by just going with the Kilowattrel and take advantage of the damage boost that it's going to give you, right? And Covert Cloak, again, you can't fake it out. No Sneasler shenanigans, so we're definitely getting our Tailwind up, okay? And especially if you partner this with Instant, you can at least deny one slot altogether, so that's cool. But again, you can Earthquake next to the Terraflying Tyranitar. You've got your Backbone. So this is a cool way to support Garchomp here. And it is the classic way in Regulation H. But it wasn't the only way. Of course, we've got Mr. Joseph Ugarte yet again bringing his patented Jumpluff Chomp D-Knight Sun team with the Eject Pack Torkoal stuff. Okay, he's played this for a few months now. And Typhlosion's actually, again, on this team here. Don't sleep on this thing, right? Eruption, it just does so much damage here. But it's a different kind of Jumpluff Sun team. It is not the same one, obviously, as Marco's team. But you get to use Garchomp and D-Knight and King Gambit here. And Joe has used this for a very long time. It's not just like these last couple months. This is what he also used last year. He just adapted it for Regulation H. And he just has instant comfort with it. So he stuck with it, right? Makes sense. Especially when you're, you know, trying to get as much points as possible to try and qualify for Worlds. So he's used this team throughout most of his format. So makes a lot of sense. But then you got some other cool teams down here. Look at this from Brian Fournier. Like, we've got Gyarados yet again. We've used Gyarados twice on the channel now within the last couple of weeks because it's so good. But look at this set. Waterfall, Temper Flare, Dragon Dance, sweeping Gyarados. Then you've got the Chomp here with Loaded Dice Scale Shot. Not Dragonite Scale Shot, Chomp Scale Shot. Okay, you've got Coaching Sneasler into the Garchomp, into the Gyarados. You can coach the King Gambit here if you want. You can also coach the AV Ceruledge look at this team. This team is crazy, right? Garchomp Gyarados is a very familiar combination. Okay, that's not new. But AV Cerulus, that's pretty interesting. Look at this. Bearded Blade, Close Combat, Shadow Sneak, Poltergeist. Okay, we got a set here. And then the Abomasol just this is you're sending the snow. You got Aurora Veil here. Okay, and then you got Blizzard Spam against the Dragons. But very cool. Leaf Storm again, great coverage against the Ursalunas, so that's cool. And yeah, this is a squad. Like, this is one of the cool teams of the regional. Great result, 8-3. Okay, how about this one down here? You look at this. We've got Hariyama here with Assault Vest, Mr. Matt Tid, and Sinistra here with the Pterodactyl Mental over here. This is pretty cool. But look at this. Another cool Sinistra set, Calm Mind Sinistra. All right, so we saw Assault Vest Sinistra. Now we see Calm Mind Sinistra. All right, this is not new either. This is like an older move, like back in a couple of formats ago, maybe like almost 2 years ago. But yeah, then you got Specs Primarina. Remember, once upon a time, Primarina was like top usage in the beginning of the format. Now it's just nowhere close. Okay, but it's still like up there, but just not nearly as much. A lot of Rillaboom has to do with it. But Chomp, again, another loaded dice Chomp set here with Swords Dance. So you got Scale Shot and Swords Dance. Lumberry Gambit, Smart, no burn, no sleep, no nothing from Sneasler. And then, AV Hariyama. Again, this is going to become Iron Hands in a couple of weeks. So Mr. Matt Tid is, again, getting himself used to it, getting himself a preview, right? Because this is going to be the same thing, right? But, of course, different moveset, obviously. But Close Combat, Knockoff, Rockside, Fake Out. Look at this. All right, and you are Thick Fat. Oh, that's very cool. Okay. But yeah, we're seeing a couple of cool Chomp teams here. How about James Beck over here with Talonflame, Goldengo, Chomp? He's used that many times already, along with Annihilate here. Usually we used to see something like Mousehold here, but instead we're going with Neutralizing Gas, Galarian Wheezing. Okay, and we've got Power Herb, Archaludon. Again, we have no rain, so this set makes sense, especially with Sturdy. Which is pretty cool. But again, using the Wheezing to shut things down, especially in terms of abilities, very important if you can manage it and get some good play out of it. And then you have one more down here. This looks like the Justin Tang team a little bit from the previous regionals, right? Because again, Mirror of Arcanine here with Ninetales stuff, Dragonite and Chomp here. But it's not, it's just like borrowing the regular Arcanine. Okay, and you still have Gambit here, which is really good. Terra Flying Gambit has always been like very solid, especially if you had Terra Blast with it, but there is no Terra Blast. But Terra Psychic Amoonguss also like another mainstay here. But again, pretty cool team. I just wonder if the Arcanine is better than the Incineroar here on this type of squad. But to each their own. I'm not sure. But hey, 7-4 results. Great job from Jonathan Martin. And Chomp. I don't know if we'll see a lot of Chomp in Regulation G. Miraidon's a thing, but I think there's better options for your ground type as opposed to using something like Garchomp. But you never know. We'll see. There's 4 months, so we'll have to see how that format progresses. But as far as Chomp finished nicely after, starting strong, then falling, and then all of a sudden rising again towards the end part of the format. If you are a hard Trick Room fanatic, then you are more or less content with the results from Toronto. There were some Day 2 teams here. Let's start here with Mr. Brian Collins. So we've used this kind of idea before with Population Follow Me. Remember Mr. Topo Wapo, again, the streamer who also gave us their rental to use, for ladder games. And, he's got rank 1 like 3 times with that team. And, this is more or less the same 6 here. Look at this. Indeedee, Hatterene, Gallade, Torkoal. Specs Torkoal does a lot of damage. Clear Amulet, Gallade, that's great into, Incineroar, and also really good against, King Gambit. And then straight up Ursaluna, you know what you're getting out of that. So nice job from Brian. Okay, then you go down here to Brent Grisner, and it looks like more or less the same team, right? I wonder if the Terras are the same, and it looks like they are. Yes, sir. Okay, so we've got 2 of the same teams finishing at the top of their archetype here, right? 15th and 47th. Then we have this classic idea. Again, no Mousehold here. Instead, just going Hisui and Lilligant. So this way you get the fast mode with the after your eruption play, right? And then Terra Ghost here, with Solar Blade, Close Combat, and the Sleep Powder. If you can manage to hit it, of course, it's going to be very, very powerful in just neutralizing another slot here. And then you can also go with the Hisui and Zoroark idea, right? So You can just go with Hyper Voice Spam. You can go with Bitter Malice. So again, you don't know. Is this Zoroark? Is this not? So you have to play those mind games a little bit. But of course, interesting that they chose to keep the Lilligant, but give up the Ursaluna, for example, right? So this is just like all special attackers. But look, you've actually added the Sneasler here. So you still have Indeedee, you still have Hatterene, you still have Torkoal, right? And you still have the fast mode here with Lilligant, Torkoal. But then you add more of your fast mode here with Indeedee, Sneasler. You proc Unburden with your Psychic Seeds. And then the Hisuian Zoroark here also just gives you another type of fast mode to the team, even though you don't quote-unquote have a Tailwind idea, right? So that makes sense too. And then how about this one here? Just adding the regular Blood Moon to this idea with Indeedee, Hatterene, and Torkoal here. But you still have P2 here along with the Galaxy. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 Trick Room setters, right? Do we need any more? Do we need any more? We have 4 Trick Room setters. I don't know if we need 4 Trick Room setters, but it still worked out. So again, congrats to them on just reaching that far with the hard Trick Room idea. But we'll see more of that in Regulation G. Obviously, the simple adjustment, just add Calyrex Ice Rider in the beginning, and it'll be relatively linear, but it does make sense. Glacial Lance plus Eruption is going to do a lot of damage. We'll have to see more adaptations later on, but that is one thing you can do for Regulation G if you want to. We, of course, have to discuss about Sneasler Balance here. It is one of the premier archetypes of Regulation H. We can't end Regulation H without talking about Sneasler Balance. So what is it? So again, you've come to know it already. This is usually something like coaching into some of your physical ideas here with the Dragonite, which may or may not adapt the Tailwind onto this type of idea, but they do have access to it. Then you can coach your Gambit and the Rillaboom. Sometimes they go back and forth with the Assault Vest, but Volcarona usually was the Covert Cloak Terra Fairy idea with the Terra Blast. So this was your fairy type right here, okay? If you needed it, you used it, and then you set it up with Quiver Dance, and then you had a fire move of choice, and this was your Sneasler Balance. Then your water type was up for grabs. This was something like Gastrodon, Dondozo, Primarina, even Electabuzz could fit on here, depending on how you wanted to play the kind of team. But sometimes you may have even seen the Alolan Ninetales, if you wanted to go that direction and just go with a screens idea, right? That was also definitely possible. But yeah, Sneasler Balance was very strong throughout most of the format, right? So as we go into Lab Mouse here, let's take a look. And here's already one of them. Well, we already saw Benny's team, right? So let's look at Justin Tang's team here, just outside the top 8. Mr. Tang here. There's the Tailwind, there's the coaching, right? Just like we thought. Unburdened Sneasler, right? We saw Mr. Tang, do this on stream here. And Hisuian Arcanine here with the Clear Amulet. Not the Power Herb, okay? But the Clear Amulet. So we don't want this thing to get intimidated. So you can coach this, okay? You got Drum Beating Rillaboom for speed control. That was like a Series 10 tech back in Sword and Shield to get the speed advantage on the Calyrexes. Assault Vest was really cool here. I wonder if we'll see knockoff over high horsepower, and the time comes. But I think you need this against Miraidon. So I think maybe it just stays. Aurora Veil, Blizzard, Icy Wind, Encore. This is my favorite Ninetales set because you have the Disruption, Speed Control, and Screens all together with a spread move there. It's my favorite Ninetales set. And Grassy Seed Goldango here. Again, very hard to remove with all this bulk here. But I like this. This is pretty cool. It's a very nice balanced Tailwind team that has a lot of different tools into a lot of different things. You've got Fake Out Pressure. You've got the Speed Control. You have 3 forms of speed control: Drum Beating, Tailwind, and Icy Wind. Okay, you've got priority in some of these mons with the Grassy Glide and the Extreme Speed here. You have setup here with Goldango. You have a lot of you have everything, right? Coaching Sneasler. There's terrain control, right? So this is like as balanced as it gets. Like you check off a lot of different boxes here. Okay, Dragon, Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass. Well, technically no water type here, but your Arcanine can be your water type if you tear it. Same thing with your Goldango. So, very good team. I like this team a lot. I want to give this a go. I think they'll make it public, but we'll see. We never know. Shiliang, of course, they built together. Not surprising. Looks like they have the same kind of idea here. Here's the Electabuzz Volcarona idea, like that we mentioned. Coaching D-Knight. No Tailwind, but very classic Sneasler Balance team from Mr. Jerry Woods III. Okay, so good ideas there. Then you can even just manage to sneak in P2 on this. You can still coach the D-Knight, but you can also coach the Porygon, right? So that's another cool adaptation that we saw there. But overall, like, it's nice to see Sneasler Balance Some of them did use the Basculegion like Benny did over here. Yeah, here's one here from Matthew. So, again, it just makes sense. Fire Water Grass with the Volcarona and the Rillaboom here. You got Coaching with the Sneasler here. And, again, Grassy Seed Sneasler, right? So, overall, pretty cool archetype within Regulation H. Sad to see it go, but good times are ahead in Regulation G. Alright, so now in this part of the video, I just want to take a look at some other teams that had some off-meta or niche Pokemon here that did well. We've already seen some of them, like, you know, Gyarados and Hariyama, and the Abomasnow come back here. And again, we also spotlighted Milotic over there, and Espathra. So we've been doing that already, technically. But let's see if we can find a few more here that we haven't spotlighted yet. By the way, Malta Morales here. This is the one at 49th place with the Breaking Swipe Hydreigon Tech, okay, onto his Archaludon Rain team here. So this is pretty cool to see. So nice job there for Walter, realizing that tech could be useful overall. How about Bax Balance here, making a spotlight here from Fiona. Look at this. Icicle Spear, Scale Shot, high horsepower Bax Scalper. No Dragon, well, you still have Dragon Move with the Scale Shot. I shouldn't say that, right? Instead of Ice Shard, we're going for high horsepower here. How about the Scarf Goldengo with the trick? Cool idea. Calm Mind Primarina. Is this valuable more than Haze? I wonder. But Calm Mind Primarina seems pretty cool. I don't know how often they used it, but it looks like Haze might be better here. I'm not sure, but who knows? Coaching Annihilate with the Sash, so that's pretty good with Bax Scalper. Of course, you can do that with Rillaboom and Incineroar, but overall, great squad there from Fiona. How about this one down here? I saw it a little bit earlier. I lost it, but yeah. Look at this one. Mr. Aaron Clemens here. Tailwind, Sunny Day. You've got Indity Armourouge here with Torkoal. Then you've got Goldengo and Annihilate. This one's a little bit out there. Like, these are good Pokemon, of course, but, you know, we've assembled quite an interesting team. You have a Trick Room team, right? But you also got a Tailwind Sun team here to an extent. And you've got Annihilate and Goldengo, double Ghosts on the same squad. That's not uncommon, but this is a pretty interesting team. So, nice, cool result there from Aaron. 8-3, very solid result. Another Bax Balance team here with the Dondozo idea. Okay. And then as we keep going down here, there was a couple more that I saw here besides Lorenzo's team over there. Oh, this one. Yeah. How about this one from Danny? Look at this. Delphox, of course, we've seen with Murkrow, Sneasler, Indeedee, and Dragapult. We've seen this before already. We technically made this as a rental one time. And then this slot right here, this was like the Hisuian Decidueye with Haze. Right, so you could definitely do that idea, but instead we're going with the Tauros Paldea Blaze idea. And I put this out in a community post, you know, where I asked if there's something else that we can team build that's like a little bit off meta before Regulation H ends. Paldea Tauros, the Blaze variant was an option that one of you commented on, and we did have something in store for it, but this is another cool idea that you can do where you can just slap it on with Sunny Day with Murkrow here and just have this with the Mirror Herb do a lot of damage. Copy the Gambit Defiant buff, copy the coaching buffs, and just go with that, you know, with Close Combat and Raging Bull here. So this is pretty cool. Another type of Delphox HO team making one last stand in Regulation H. So that was pretty cool to see. We've already showed you the Primate team, okay, from Spencer. That was an interesting choice there. But hey, listen, you got the result that you needed. So, you know, we're not questioning it. We are all in for it. We got a combo here. Okay, there's always going to be a combo in day 2 in Regulation H, even if it doesn't get that much of results, but it does get results. But look at this set. Life Orb combo. This is something we haven't seen yet. Flamethrower, Aura Sphere, and Clanging Scales. So we're not going with the setup here. We're just going for instant offense. And that's what we've got here. Then we've got Farigiraf, Incin, and Ursaluna for your Trick Room core. And then all this burst damage with Sneasler and Dragapult. So that's pretty cool. All right, something that we haven't really seen yet. And then how about Mr. Costin Thompson making Sylveon work at this point in Regulation H? You know, there's another fairy that's going to take this place soon. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's going to be Fluttermane coming back. So use your Sylveons while you can, guys, because Fluttermane is coming back. But here we go. Hyper Voice with Pixelate specs so much damage. Hyper Beam, Shadow Ball, Terra Blast. Farigiraf, but no Blood Moon or Saluna. I think you know, I thought we might see that here, but it's actually just Archaludon in its place. But again, still like very good. Tailwind, Protect, Taunt, none. Okay. All right. Hey, makes sense there. I wonder if there's a backstory to that one. But look at this one. How about this one here? Mandibuzz, you know, with this Tyranitar Excadrill team, with Dondozo Tatsugiri. Oh, hey, we finally found the Dondozo Tatsugiri. Mandibuzz, Overcoat with Covert Cloak. Oh my goodness, that's a tongue twister. Overcoat with Covert Cloak. Try saying that 5 times. Okay. Foul Play, Brave Bird, Tailwind, and Taunt. Okay. You know, once upon a time, this was used like in a restricted format because of Calyrex, Ice Rider, and Shadow Rider. You are a Dark type here, but I wonder if we'll see that a little bit more in play here. But hey, you got Tailwind here with these guys, so makes sense, I guess. You know, you're not taking Sand Chip damage. You're super bulky. You can just click random foul plays everywhere. So to each their own. But hey, it works. You got 6-5. You got your CP. You know, so shout outs to them. Gengar usage, right? You know, this Gengar's another one of those mods where like I wanted to use but just never got around to using. Icy Wind and Haze is a thing that you can do with it. Cursed Body is also very punishing. You have taunts, you have Shadow Ball. Okay, this does make sense on a team like this with Sneasler, right? Acrobatic Sneasler, Grassy Seed set, you know, Hydreigon, Life Orb, instant offense. So you know, Gengar proving itself useful there as a fast Shadow Ball user that can give you speed control and does have access to Haze there, right? So yeah, overall, like again, a pretty cool and big turnout with a regional, and I'm sad to see it go, obviously, just because there were so many different things viable. But onwards to Regulation G, where we're going back to the restricted format, where we're gonna see stuff like this, where we have. Let me just actually let's pause the video for a bit and let's reset. And let's talk slightly a little bit about Regulation G. Okay, so one of the first questions that, you know, people are going to ask is like, can I still use Sneasler in Regulation G? It gets a little bit harder, okay? And the only reason I say that is because you have Miraidon running around now. So, you know, electric terrain does exist. You can't sleep things, but you can still do other stuff with Sneasler, okay? I won't omit the fact that you can't use Sneasler in Regulation G. Will I think it'll be as high usage as it was in Regulation H? Absolutely not. Do I think it's unplayable? Also absolutely not. I still think we'll see some creative ideas with Sneasler in Regulation H. So don't put it past you because, again, you know, 120 base speed, 130 tech, people finally realized its potential at long last. And all you have to really do with Miraidon is just override the terrain with Rillaboom. So what you can just do is just, you know, maybe even put like a Grassy Seed or a Focus Sash on this thing and then just have Rillaboom on your team. And now all of a sudden the electric terrain is gone and Sneasler can start clicking Dire Claw again. So, you know, that might be the direction to go if you have to use Sneasler in a Miraidon format. Just make sure you have terrain to your advantage, right? The same thing can be said if you have the Indeedee over here, where you're just also, again, changing terrain and, you know, making yourself useful because, again, you are a normal type. So that means you're not going to take Astral Barrage damage. So maybe this might be the other direction to go with it, you know, in terms of having the Sneasler on your team, right? Because, again, Sneasler's going to outspeed everything. And if you have the Throat Chop set, okay, guess what that's going to be good against, right? Terra Dark, you know, with the Indeedee stuff. Guess what that's going to be good against? The Calyrex Shadow Rider. So I won't say that Sneasler is going away in Regulation H. I won't say that because there are ways to make it work. And if people use it properly, I still think this kind of set will be useful against the Calyrexes too. So I won't put it past that. That's one idea that I think people are going to take advantage of. Then as we go forward, we get our Fairy back. Okay, we've got Fluttermane. We've also got Chiyu. Okay, don't forget these two are going to come back. And then you also have, you know, the Shadow Rider again also all together. You might even see some redirection support with something like Clefairy here. That's Clefable. Okay, Clefairy was really good. And we'll speak more about this in our reintroduction to Regulation G. But the Flutterfish combination is back. Okay, and you know what else is back along with these guys? Not necessarily Archaludon, even though Archaludon was still really good in Regulation H with something like a Pelipper, right? But now, guess what you get to use instead? You get to have Kyogre come back, right? And now you can have Tornadus come back here. And this was a combination that was used a little bit in the early parts of Regulation G back then. People use this. So this is your adaptation for your rain teams. Will you see Basculegion on these teams? Maybe. Okay, Basculegion is still pretty good, but we'll have to wait and see if you'll see that. But I'll tell you what, if Basculegion was on these teams, then I think you might have to either use something like Serena on stuff like this, or even the Farigiraf, just because you want to deny priority moves into the Kyogre and the Basculegion from a Rillaboom, but also priority moves coming from another certain Pokemon that is also coming back that can also pressure the Ogre and the Basculegion at the same time, besides Rillaboom, and that is, of course, Raging Bolt, right? You get to use this thing again. So Raging Bolt comes back, and it does very well with your Koraidon restricted. Then you add something like Flutter Mane here, and now you can start with these three, and this will start forming the ideas with your Sun teams, you know, with Koraidon. So priority is a must, okay, in this format, and that's why you have anti-priority stuff with Farigiraf and the Indeedee stuff. So we'll start seeing that a little bit more. But those Torkoal Sun teams, maybe they get a little bit more adaptations, you know, into those Koraidon teams. We'll have to wait and see. Dragonite, right? So Dragonite sets, maybe they get readapted. So of course, right now in Regulation H, I should say. Oh, I'm messing up my letters now. Scale Shot was a thing, right, with multi-scale. But now you get another old friend back. So now you might go back to Inner Focus, okay, and start going with the Extreme Speed Teraband sets, okay? Teraband, Choice Band set is what I meant. Because remember, what's his partner that he gets back? You get back Chenpao here, right? So we'll see what Dragonite Chenpao stuff does later on, but another cool tech that it does get is Ice Spinner. But if you have Chenpao here, then you don't need to put Ice Spinner on your D-Knight. You can have it here, blow up Rillaboom, Indeedee, and Miraidon Terrain here. These two get to come back. And what's also really good with them? The Urshifus, right? So both of them, both Urshifus get to come back as well here. So whether you want the water one or the dark one, they do very well with Chenpao / D-Knight altogether. Just can't protect in front of them. You can't click screens. Your defense boosts don't matter. And then that leads us to the debate, right? You know, the Sneasler versus the Urshifu discourse. Okay, so feel free to argue that in the comments. That one was, you know, something that you might find on Reddit. Okay, which one is worse, quote unquote, which one is worse. But that's where I'll end the video there. Let me know what you think of the Sneasler versus Urshifu discourse. Let me know what you thought of Regulation H altogether and whether you enjoyed that format. And if you're excited to restart 4 months of clicking Astro Barrage and Glacial Lance and Electro Drift, right? Let me know if you're really excited for that. But yeah, we'll start our G content soon, okay? But overall, I think these last 4 months were pretty cool. It was a nice little breath of fresh air, you know, just to not abuse the paradox options and the legendaries. But that comes to an end now, and we get to use you know, broken moves again with broken base power. Okay, but that's it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.